Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing good on this evening. I am here to talk to y'all about the American Jobs Plan and how it's going to impact small businesses. My name is Bernice, and I am the Regional Director with For Future in West Central Florida. So if you're over in Tampa area, that's where I'm based at. And I am going to pass it next to my colleague David to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, my name is David. I'm here in the East Central area with For Future Florida, regional director for this area, and we'll really look forward to this panel discussion. And we have a few people here. I'll pass it over to our third regional here with Juan and get to introduce our panelists.
Hey everybody. My name is Juan Moore. I'm the Regional Director of South Florida. That's West Palm, Broward, and Miami. And I'm glad to be here and discuss President Biden's American Jobs Plan today.
Awesome. And we have two incredible guests with us tonight. The first that I want to introduce to you is Miss Lakisha. Lakisha, can you introduce yourself to Facebook?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Lakisha French. I am the president and CEO of Preneurology Global and the Future in Color Initiative. And we help build equity, innovation, and entrepreneurship ecosystems globally. And for us, entrepreneurship is activism and justice. So happy to be here and add value.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we are glad to have you on. And next, I'd like to introduce Miss Lisa from the Common Ground Project. How you doing tonight, Lisa?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. Just like an awesome opportunity to talk about, what we can do for small businesses across the country and specifically in Florida. Really, really excited about being joined with Miss Lakisha and hearing more about bringing in the, real time, how this is really going to impact folks. So it's great to have some good news to share.
Awesome. So we are going to talk a little bit about President Biden's American Jobs Plan tonight. So the American Jobs Plan, or AJP, you might hear us call it that, is a bold proposal, and it's going to reinvigorate our economy by creating jobs, improving our infrastructure like roads, bridges, and highways. And that includes piping as well, like our water pipes. And it will also have a focus on clean energy. And the American Jobs Plan is actually going to empower our small businesses to create opportunities for millions of Americans. And I am going to toss it to Juan.
You're on mute, Juan.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Bernice. Our call to action, we want to take a minute to email Senator Rubio and Scott because we know Florida needs jobs. And we know they have a history of kind of stalling out on our needs. And so we can't let Rubio and Scott be a roadblock to jobs and small businesses support too. So we need to let them know that Floridians want the American Jobs Plan. So make your voice heard and email Rubio and Scott today. And the link is in the comments now. And we want to be able to have our voices heard. And these are one of the ways that we're doing it through email. So yeah, for sure. Go ahead and pass it back to David.
I wanted to start here, obviously, today, and this whole week is Small Business Week, National Small Business Week. So obviously, we're really wanting to focus on the impact that this really expansive piece of legislation and this plan has on a lot of different aspects. But of course, we do want to really talk today about the impact that it has on small businesses and different parts of the economy that are impacted by small businesses. And really one of the first things that comes out of all the things that we are going to be talking about in the coming months about this American Jobs Plan is how this is really, a lot of the proposals, there's a good question of okay, well, how are we funding a lot of this? And a lot of that is going to come from a new and fair tax code. And that's going to be really helpful competition-wise for a lot of folks. I know we can point to a lot of, I think, 91 Fortune 500 companies that paid 0% in corporate taxes, and just by shifting jobs and profits overseas. And that is something that small businesses would have to compete with, a tax code that isn't built for small businesses. And so this would level the playing field a bit and would prioritize small businesses through incentivizing job creation and making sure that profits made in the U.S. are kept in the U.S. And so in regards to the tax code, I wanted to sort of ask a question to any of our panelists regarding the taxes that small businesses have to pay. Do the small businesses ever get away with a lot of the really low tax rates that some of the multinational corporations are able to do? Where do they end up falling on the kind of measure with the tax burden? Lakisha, if you have any perspective on how small businesses fare when coming to I guess the tax rate or how it impacts growing in new small businesses.
I was actually talking, the mic was muted. Yeah, so I think, small businesses, on the ground, and again, we're talking day to day, business and entrepreneurship is a heavy lift. And so I think when it comes to tax breaks, small businesses don't get the same treatment. But they have a lot more expenses. A lot of the times you have solopreneurs. A lot of most small businesses are, one owner. And so, when it comes to purchasing things, especially technology, given that we live in a new economy, there's a lot of technology, a lot of subscriptions, and for instance, like the platform we're on now. So small business owners are gaining new expenses. However, they're not, I don't think the current tax code is reflective of those expenses that they're experiencing on the ground. And so a small fee like that, $200 a year, $500 a year, plays a big role, and it impacts their cash flow and their bottom line, and they don't receive the tax breaks for it. And so I think we have a lot of work to do when it comes to particularly, we're a large corporation, it may not be as big of a burden. And then they also get a lot of tax breaks. So it's almost like double taxation for, in the tax code for small businesses, especially with this new economy that we live in. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Thanks. That's the kind of first part. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Bernice for what another important aspect of the AJP.
Awesome. So expanding access to capital. Government funding and access to capital have been historically inequitable based on race and gender. And so one of the things the American Jobs Plan does is it takes steps to rectify this, and it creates a new grant program through the Department of Commerce's Minority Business Development Agency. And this program is specifically to help minority-owned business manufacturers access private capital. So I'm curious to hear from Lisa and from Lakisha, how do y'all feel like this will impact women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses?
Yeah, Lisa, if you want to jump in, then
sure. Yeah, sure. I was like, I'm sure that you're much more up close and personal with this aspect, but I can speak from what my work and advocacy work, just seeing, we know that there were a lot of disadvantages that were already in existence before the pandemic, but also that women and especially Black and brown women were more affected by the pandemic. And I think that seeing this investment in small businesses, but also addressing gender equity, racial equity, is just something I super plans. And as a working mom, seeing the investment even on the American Rescue Plan, as far as it goes for childcare, like all of these are aspects that are interconnected. And I'm just really grateful to see an investment into building back better.
Yep. And if I could follow up with that, prior to the pandemic, I think the pandemic really just pulled the Band-Aid off, right? I think when we look at minority-owned businesses, particularly women, as Lisa mentioned, less than 1% of investments go towards women-owned enterprises. And I would imagine that number is much lower for manufacturers. And so access to capital is the most important barrier. And when we say capital, social capital is also included in that. And so I'm excited to see some disruptive strategies and programs and, parts of this program that address those things that serve as barriers to people of color and women in particular. And so it's not always about the funding. And so I hope that these programs open up the door for us to be able to bring those solutions that we need to break down those barriers, because it's just and so it's the answer is not more venture capital or more private capital, but I think the government stepping in to play a role in this is going to allow us to have a much more equitable conversation about this, as opposed to closed door private conversations with the private funding organizations and firms. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for those answers, ladies. And I'm going to toss it over to David for our next slide.
Yeah. One of the other things, and just kind of looking at how the American Jobs Plan is really geared towards helping small businesses in a lot of ways. I mean, entrepreneurs have to compete in a system that often favors large corporations, wealthy individuals. This would provide funding to community-based small business incubators and innovation hubs to support entrepreneurship in communities of color and also underserved communities. And so for people that don't have a lot of experience looking at people that start up new businesses or just people that don't have the experience, what impact does this make for someone either deciding to start a small business or, in that first year or so where their people are getting their feet on the ground?
Yeah. So this, I don't want to keep jumping first, but no, it makes all the difference. I'm a strong believer in innovation hubs and ecosystems. That's something that we focus on building globally. And it's because entrepreneurship and business ownership is a huge spectrum and it's a journey. And so there's not only technical support, but community and sustainability. An ecosystem provides support from point A at startup and ideation to a mature company exiting or merging. And so, and of course, particularly in minority communities, we see a lot of activity that happens in different cities and states around the country, but lack of connectivity. A lot of business is done in silos. And so breaking down those barriers is really important in a hub, particularly innovation hub. And when we say innovation, it's, disrupting the normal paradigms, which, a lot of business is done behind closed doors, is at the water cooler. And so I think what innovation hubs does is it brings, again, we talk about social capital and community and the technical support and those who are really doing great work in incubators and accelerators to support those businesses, giving them a opportunity to come to the forefront, to be available and accessible to the business owners. And so the other thing I'll just mention is that research and development is important. So innovation, when we say innovation, it's not just technology. R&D is at the heart of that. And that's one of the things for the Future in Color, what we're working on with other organizations in Orlando, like Urbander, and even in Silicon Valley, the Latino Business Foundation, all really looking at these same pain points and wondering, innovation deserts, what we consider where there's lack of research development, taking ideas from concept to commercialization, and you need a hub, you need that support to be able to move business owners, and again, particularly those who are underserved and underestimated along the continuum. So I can't stress enough how critical innovation hubs are for business growth.
Yeah, and I really like how this plan really digs down and looks at these economic, inequalities. And so when you look at it traditionally, like, just to piggyback off that, traditionally banks before or even during COVID, it's hard to get a loan from the bank, but traditionally, smaller owned Black and brown businesses, it's very hard to get funding. So this addresses a systemic issue that has been around for forever, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that perspective. I know. I think we'll just kind of continue along and pass it back over to Juan. I know we have, I believe, this here talking about infrastructure jobs.
Yeah, the American Jobs Plan is a historic and overdue investment in our roads, bridges, rail ports, airports, and transit systems. Small business will be able to participate in the design, construction, and manufacturing of new infrastructure and component parts. And I know we were talking earlier, Bernice, about some of the water issues, the pipeline, pipeline that will be addressed.
So one of the cool things that the American Jobs Plan does is it will actually replace 100% of all the lead piping in the water pipes. And so that's going to make a huge difference for children, especially who are being exposed to lead through all the water pipes. So that's like an environmental justice issue that's going to be addressed by this legislation, which is really exciting.
I have to jump in here because I literally this afternoon called the pediatrician. My daughter's been having headaches, and I'm like, is it lead poisoning? I live in a 100-year-old house, and so seeing this is just like, it is incredible, and it really, it's going to change a lot of health for a lot of kids out there. So I'm like, this is really what I went through today. So it's really awesome to see this being addressed. And
so I hope there's enough time for me to chime in. I don't want to jump in. Oh,
please.
Yeah. So with infrastructure, I mean, this is huge because, I grew up in the inner city. I'm from Jersey City in Newark, New Jersey. And, we had abandoned buildings all around us. I mean, you walk home from school. I grew up, even the corner store you go in. It's just environmental justice is important. And I remember growing up and, again, potholes and it costs money, it costs you health. And a lot of, I do a lot of work globally and in third world countries and, emerging ecosystems. And to be quite honest, a lot of our cities and rural areas here in the United States are, if not worse, the same condition. I think so. I'm very happy to see that infrastructure is being addressed here. Quality of life. If you have to, when you grow up in a poor environment with poor infrastructure, it's a weight. It is. I think about when I visit nice areas, when you go on vacation, you mentally feel better. So when we think about innovation and progress and we talk about business, if I don't live in a good environment, if I don't wake up, and when I'm walking to school in the morning, so I'm just thinking on the ground here, like the everyday life, that's important. Access to the digital divide. You know, a lot of the times, you don't have access to internet and broadband and those things because the infrastructure is poor, and that holds us back. So I think this is critical to pushing America forward. I think, to be quite honest, and pushing us into the future of work. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm so tired of uneven lanes in Florida. We've had construction on our turnpike for ages. I think since I was in the fetus.
And any of us working from home with children experienced some broadband issue access last year as well. So, I'm glad to see an investment.
So let's look at some other parts here as well. Disaster relief. From 2010 to 2020, Florida has experienced 22 extreme weather events, costing the state up to $100 billion in damages. And the president is calling for $50 billion to improve the resiliency of our infrastructure and support communities' recovery from disaster. Now, the American Jobs Plan will provide a bipartisan tax credit to provide incentives to low and middle income families and to small businesses to invest in disaster resilience. And I have to say, I'm in Homestead here, so we're in South Florida, South Miami, and I was here during all the major storms. I can remember Irma having to leave and then coming back and knowing some of the small business owners here. Robert sticks out to me, Robert's fruit stand, and how long it took him to get back into business. And then just to imagine when you get back onto your feet, boom, here comes COVID. And so, this is, again, a necessary piece in legislature, in this plan that, is addressing something that has, long been overdue.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, please, Lakisha.
No, I was just saying, when I think about disaster relief, again, when I think of this plan, the word reimagine it keeps coming to mind, because we have to reimagine how we think about these things. It's not the age old definitions of, what a disaster is, because now with climate change, I live in Georgia, I'm in Atlanta, and we've had, the weather has changed, which has changed the environment, which has changed, when it sleets here, and the roads and the conditions. And so that causes it can be considered a disaster, it's not just storms anymore. It's all these things that are happening that are really changing how day-to-day life and how we operate. And so I think the funding is needed for each state, city, rural area to properly address these changes. I mean, whatever we believe, I mean, we know that things are, when it's cold, it's May and it's still cold here in Atlanta. And so, some of the homes and the way things are built, where it's not used to that type of weather. So the condition of them is different. Even when you have storms, I mean, I know even in New Jersey, I know there have been some storms the past few years, like my family was. And so I just think we have to, I'm happy that they are trying to put forth some funding for disaster relief, and particularly giving incentives to low income and middle class income families and small businesses to solve these problems, because I don't think that it's, they're not, it doesn't take just national. It's going to be very subjective to the communities. And I think we're going to continue to have more issues that come about that are not going to look like they, so we have to almost reimagine and rethink what disaster is. And I think having some funding there for each city, state to address those things is critical for advancement, I think. So.
Yeah, I think a good example of that is what we saw in Texas, that freeze, and just how, unexpectedly everything just rolled downhill. And so, yeah, exactly. You're spot on.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to leave y'all with some resources before we hopped off tonight. And so one great resource for y'all will be going to the Small Business Administration Their website, SBA.gov, has a lot of great information for y'all if you're a small business owner interested in learning more. And then we have another ask for y'all because we couldn't leave you with just one. We want to hold our senators, Rubio and Scott, accountable for making sure that the American Jobs Plan gets passed. So we want them to vote yes on the American Jobs Plan. So if y'all take your phone and scan this QR code right here, you'll be able to sign that petition for us, and that'll be a big way to let your voice be heard today.
Last but not least, obviously, this is meant to be informational to provide some context and what we're, what we're looking forward to, what we're really hoping to see become reality with the American Jobs Plan. And so we're going to be hosting a trivia night for all of our activists and volunteers and people who like to join, people who are interested in joining. That is going to be our statewide trivia night with around the American Jobs Plan. We managed to get some prizes included too, so that's very exciting. And that'll be at 6:00 p.m. on Monday. It'll be over Zoom. So if you're watching this and would like to join, we'll be sure to link the event in the description, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. It's a great way to participate and of course test your knowledge on what is all included in this landmark legislation. And let's see what else we have for everyone, which is this, yes, a way to stay connected with our guest panelist, Lakisha. I guess this is a link to your website. Could you tell us a little bit more about ways that people could find out more about what you do?
Sure. So of course you can visit us at preneurology.org. And then you'll see a lot of the work we're doing with the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. We do entrepreneur support programming, as well as developing the ecosystems with departments of education. We have a K-12 platform, and in the other organizations that we work with the Future in Color initiative, you'll be able to reach out to us and find information about those. If you go to the Georgia Tech website here, on one of the projects that Preneurology is working on with Urbander and other organizations is this hub. So one of the Department of Commerce hubs that you saw there in the presentation, we're actually building a business growth hub across the Southeast for the Department of Commerce and MBDA to build equitable pathways for BIPOC entrepreneurs. And we're doing that in collaboration with Morehouse Center for Innovation and Georgia Tech. But you can, go to the website and read all about us and our partners who are all listed there and are amazing. So, and Sammy, I have to shout out Sammy, one of my partners in the Future in Color initiative, who is in Florida, by the way. She's in Orlando. So you'll see her on the website as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here with us. And of course, big shout out to, of course, people in Orlando. Love to hear it. We'll look forward to connecting. This is, of course, a way to stay connected with Common Ground and, of course, with For Our Future. Whatever part of the state you're in, there's a Facebook group for you. So you can check us out For Our Future. Florida.us Facebook groups. And of course, if you're watching this on Facebook right now and you're in the Orlando area, the Organizing to Victory, East Central, West Central, South Florida, North Florida, we're looking forward to organizing in all parts of the state. So I think that's really important, and of course it does go a long way to stay active and really advocate for these important issues. So and then there's a Common Ground who's going to join us. How can we stay engaged with y'all?
Yeah, I'm really excited because this whole event, hearing from Lakisha, one of the way that I view Common Ground playing a role is that we just need to pump out the information and get it out there to the business owners, make sure that people know that this is accessible. That's my, that's my lane. And so I would invite you to stay, tuned to Common Ground, especially on our Facebook page. It's where we are most up to date with like just new stuff that's coming out, both on a national level and then as well as Florida specific. And it just seems like to me every single day there's new things coming out, and they're all amazing. But definitely encourage y'all to share either the FOF Facebook group or go to Common Ground, because we are all just doing our best to get that information out to you guys.
That's awesome, Lisa. I look forward to connecting with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again to our panelists, Lisa and Lakisha, and hope that everybody has a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.